Con Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, it is so good to be back in the studio with you today, and we are going to talk about everything on how to become a leader's leader. And I know this sounds really funny, but like whenever you go into an audience, one of the things that I like to do is I'm like, oh, hey, can I just get all the leaders to put up their hands? Yeah. And usually people based on title, like head of sales, head of PM, operations, whatever, will put their hands up.
Yep.
But then I go, but that wasn't the question. I said, if you're a leader, put up your hands.
Yeah.
And so then I go, okay, great. If you're a leader in your own life, put up your hands.
Yes.
And about 95% of the room do, and about 5% text their partner going, honey, am I allowed to lead today? But I think about this as an interesting conversation. And I had an old school lesson that was taught to me very early. And it was, I don't need to be in control, but if no one's in control, then I'm in control. And what that was like, take control of a situation if no one else is. Does that make sense? And it's like, if it needs control, then get in there and get yourself around it. So this whole thing about like lessons in leadership, and I think probably two of the best was about this whole idea that, do what other great leaders have done to you to others, but don't do what other poor leaders have done to you. And so as an example, when I was first coming through the ranks in the newspaper game and I was offered a full-time role after being on a casual role, that full-time role they offered me was like 30 cents extra a week. And the guy that offered me the new role didn't actually know what I was currently getting paid, so even though I worked inside the same organization. And what you just work out straight away is that they just, they didn't really think about you. They didn't really care about you. It's just a number. And, and then, when you decide to leave, then they want to pay you more. And that's kind of like a crazy thing.
It's a bit too late after that, isn't it?
Yeah. But what some of the great leaders have done to me is that they've seen far more in me than I saw in myself. They helped me to raise to another level. I would see their name and number on a phone and I would stand to attention to take that call. And I know that sounds funny, but I was like, I was really, I can learn a lot from this, and I've got to be at my absolute best. I've got to be at my A game when this person's ringing, because it's kind of like the Kobe Bryant of the real estate industry or the Michael Jordan's ringing me now. How do I answer this call when Con rings? Like how do I do that? So what I'm trying to get you to think about, what are some of the things that some of the great leaders or mentors or managers that you have worked for have taught you along the way?
Mate, it's a good question. It's a big question, because when I was reading our notes, I was trying to put myself back into. They've done so much.
Yes.
So they've taught me via observation of all the things that I shouldn't do that they've done.
Yes.
So they've allowed themselves to become vulnerable.
Yes.
And to admit when they didn't get it right.
Yes.
They've allowed me to be able to grow and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes.
Yes.
They've absolutely given me a belief way beyond what I thought I was capable of.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the crux of it. They've been able to unlock the magic that was in me.
Yes.
And I think that's what a great leader does. They give you belief, they give you vision, they give you the ability to be able, like you said, stand to attention. I think also what they did is they trusted me, they cared for me, they loved me, and they more importantly wanted to direct me in the best possible way, but allow me to get to the conclusion. So they didn't want to say, hey, there's the road, this is the road you must travel. They say, hey man, there's a couple of paths, you pick the one, and we'll kind of guide you there to make sure you don't get off the beaten track. So,
well, what are some of the worst managers done? I'll give you one. So I was moving to a different role, and they handed me a laptop from another person in the office. They said, "Oh, look, he's gone now, so this is yours."
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
They hand me down,
and so I opened up the laptop, and there was like some of the eyelashes and stuff. The screen was all dirty, and the photo with his wife and kids were in the background, and still all of his emails and his desktop was all there, and it hadn't been wiped and clean. And I from that point, I've always bought brand new machines for every staff member that started with me, because I was like, I never wanted that experience. And so I also wanted to make sure that then I'm really clear about what actually happens in the first hour, the first day, the first week, the first month of anyone coming to join our organization, because I want people to have a great joining experience. I don't want someone chasing you for your superannuation details 3 weeks down the track. Like that stuff's got to be done up front.
I think the worst bosses have done is they weren't leading.
Yeah.
They weren't there. They weren't visible. They weren't present. They didn't have the passion or the attention to be able to want to be better.
Yeah.
They kind of just existed. So I don't call them leaders, I call them managers.
Sure.
They just managed, operations really well. But my very, very first sales manager outside of real estate, I remember I'd never been to a sales meeting before. It was Monday morning, 8 o'clock. His name was Ken.
Yeah.
He looked like he was from the 70s playing cricket with a big, kind of Merv Hughes moustache. And he did this weird thing. He was sitting at the top of the table and there was all guys, all young guys. And he took his shoe off and he started polishing it.
Right.
And he said, if we didn't hit our forecast, where this shoe would go.
Right.
And I just looked at it. I kind of internally was laughing, but almost is this what sales is all about? So I think
So that's why you take your shoes off in the meetings.
Yeah. So I think the worst bosses have actually given me the best gifts.
Yes.
So the way that they made me feel or the way that they made other people feel, the way that they kind of maybe led by fear.
Yeah.
That didn't work. So I think I've had some incredible people, man, that have mentored me.
Yeah.
Rod Podbury, who I don't even know if he listens to this podcast, but Rod Podbury was my very, very first sales manager, and he really allowed me to learn. He allowed me to get engaged. He allowed me to get energy and passion.
Yeah.
He allowed me to experiment. He allowed me to make mistakes. He would guide me when I could have handled something better.
Yeah.
Or if I handled something really well, he would say, hey, how do we elevate this, right?
Yes.
John McGrath's been phenomenal. I've been working with John now for 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
I've worked with Shane Smolin, Matt LaHood.
Yeah.
But they're the salespeople, right?
Yes.
I've worked with some incredible CFOs and CEOs, board members that just opened up my world and my eyes to something different. So I've been very blessed, mate.
So when you think about leaders leader, one conversation is learning how to lead yourself. Is that a challenge for people?
Absolutely.
And what are some of the foundational theories that you've got about leading yourself?
Well, yeah, mate. The video and the audio have to match, right? So, I can't preach or coach or opine on something when I'm completely doing the opposite in my personal life or even in my business life.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that there is a level of authenticity. Mm-hmm. I'm not perfect. I say this, to some of my sales managers, hey, I handled that wrong with you.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, particularly if I made you feel in a certain way that I shouldn't have. But, and I'm not justifying, but I want you to have a look at my frame and where I'm coming from, and I'm coming from a really good place, right? Yeah. We're not perfect. Everyone's perfectly flawed. But I think you have to be able to lead yourself. I'm in a suit and tie every single day.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you don't know anything else?
It's very simple. Yeah, it's very simple. But B, I want to.
When you're in business zone, you're in business zone.
Mate, I want to set the tone. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is what it looks like to be enthusiastic as hell, sharp as a tack, laser focused, ready to go, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, if I'm unshaven, or if my hair's not done right, or my shirt's not, ironed, or whatever it might be, I'm not leading myself. It's really hard for others to want to follow. Mm-hmm. Right?
So, and do you feel that literally that people believe that the leader must have figured it out? Like there's a group of people that go there.
We're still figuring it out. I'm still learning.
Yes.
I think what a leader has done has worked with trial and error.
Yes.
Through observation, watching, their leaders, but also through experimentation. Mm-hmm. And I think, John McGrath said this once. We were working on something and he goes, mate, you're really polishing this up. Soon enough, you're going to see your reflection in it. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I don't really understand what that means. And he goes, don't let perfect get in the way of good.
Yeah, sure.
He goes, make the decisions. Mm-hmm. He goes, you know what? We know what's really interesting, Con? 7, 8, 9, you'll get right. You might get 1, 2, or 3 wrong.
Sure.
And they're usually the ones that don't really matter that much. Mm-hmm. So I think the observation of being able to allow yourself to be your authentic self, to be able to learn from your mistakes, realize when you're off track, but then course correct. Mm-hmm. I think that's truly leading your way, leading yourself.
And also too about learning how to hold yourself to really high standards.
Yes.
So, and I know that sounds funny, but if I demand a lot of others, then I must demand a lot even more out of myself.
100%.
Because I've got to, make sure that these things have happened and that dot's been dotted and that T's been crossed and, make all those things happen. And that's a really important part, like developing standards of leadership. So it's sort of like we have a standard set of communication of how we communicate inside of the business. We have a standard about what we do and what we don't have around those types of things. We want to make sure that, I for example, used to have one company that wanted me to do reimbursements every 180 days.
Oh, wow.
I do a reimbursement on the day you spend the money.
100%.
Like all of that sort of stuff, and just the standards. And we pay our invoices straight up, like literally all of those things. And we expect to be paid straight up. Like all of those things are really important.
But do you think that's a really interesting point, right? So my dad, he said to me, whenever someone does work for you,
yes,
right, the chippy, the painter, the sparky, whatever it is, you pay them that day.
Yes.
So I reckon the lessons in leadership, you're obviously taking them from business, you're taking them from customers, you're probably taking a big set of core value standards and behaviours from your parents as well. Mm-hmm. I've had the pleasure of meeting your mum and dad, and
yes,
I can definitely see that. And I think that's important too, because leadership isn't just the corporatized version of it.
Yes.
In our business, everyone's a leader. Everyone's empowered to make the right decision for the customer. And I say this, Josh, I say there's just three things that you've got to be able to kind of tick. And if you can tick these three boxes, you can make any decision you want in this business. The first one is it good for the customer?
Yes.
The second one, is it good for you? Mm-hmm. And the third one is it good for the business? Mm-hmm. Now, if it's good for the customer and good for you and not for the business, it's a no deal.
Yes.
And so on and so forth.
Yes.
So everyone's empowered to make decisions.
So I love that, because like literally what you're talking about is developing capability. So here is a set of guiding principles for you to be able to make fast decisions without me having to be there.
Correct.
And if you've got all the key things like clarity of mission, clarity of values, you're making sure that you've got those decision principles in place. There is times to be really visionary, and then there's times to be very tactical inside of a business. Is there a need for both in terms of your leadership style?
I think so, yeah, definitely. I think sometimes you lean on one more than the other.
Sure.
But I definitely think you need to kind of have the vision, but then you got to execute. And the only way that you're going to do that is, by the tactics and the strategy that you deploy. So, yeah, I definitely think you can do both.
Do you remember there was an era that you would lock the door, and if anyone came in late, they weren't allowed in?
Yeah. John McGrath, first sales meeting I ever did, he said, lock the door. And I said, and then he goes, lock the door. Mm-hmm. They came in like 4 minutes late, and they just sat outside at the top of Edgecliff. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not so much into that. Mm-hmm. I don't think, and that's not disrespect to Johnny, but
just giving how the world works now. And I get a lot of people go, "Oh, sorry, mate, I was late." I'm like, "No,
I don't care."
And then, I love it too when someone comes up to you and they're very polite and they go, "Oh, mate, I need to leave 15 minutes early." I say, "Oh, no, same. I got to go too." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm kidding. That's way fine." But it's actually really important. And I think that leader is not by title. Leader is obviously by actions.
Yeah.
How do I make someone feel? How do I make someone feel really important? Make me feel important is tattooed on the forehead of every single person that you meet.
I agree.
That's a great conversation.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
Hey, Colin, one of the things that I think that, Colin's wrote about it the best in, Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0, about this whole idea between like common enemy versus role model. But I still continue to see it everywhere that I go. And I just love that whole idea is that literally role model is probably the standard that I would choose. I'm not overly driven by common enemy. I don't mind where we sit, but I just want to be, how do I become the best?
Yep.
And I just had this whole idea, the thing that rapidly shaped me was that what would happen if I just strove to become the best in the world at what I do?
Yeah.
And I work lovingly at my craft. And, Jiro Dreams of Sushi is a fantastic documentary about that. But like literally, still doing sushi 50 years later and has not yet mastered the craft.
Correct.
And that whole idea about like really thinking differently around that's a big conversation.
Yeah, I think one idea that's rapidly shaping me, and I use this with my sales managers today actually, is what happens when you slow down, you put absolute focus on the task, you ask better questions to get better responses, and therefore rather than going into sell mode, you're there into solution mode. You're there to actually listen. And I think there's something in that, and it might even be like as simple as from a listing appointment, or you got a buyer appointment and we go straight into sell it, but why don't we just ask better questions? And I think you're the master of that. But I think it's so simple that's the genius in it.
Something that's changing your view.
Just becoming a lifelong learner. And, someone was asking me about this the other day about, what sort of got you into the discovery of that. And I think that just as a young child, seeing my dad's cassette tapes and then seeing all of the books that he had bought that were in his library. And it was just like a phenomenal thing that I was like, okay, great. Just like learn how to become the best at that. And I think that that whole thing is that, like you read for different things. And do you remember that quote? Like sometimes you read for basic knowledge.
Yeah.
Sometimes you read for entertainment. Like sometimes you read because you need to get in a position that you really start to improve a skill set. And sometimes you absolutely read for mastery. And I think about those different things that when I was reading The Hungry Caterpillar as a little child, that was clearly entertainment.
Yes.
But like when I go to read about that particular thing, it's all about mastery now. And it's just amazing because there were some new stats on this the other day that they believe that the general IQ in society is getting less.
100%.
Because it's being fed so much video content on socials.
Yeah, correct.
And that people they reckon the reading rates are dropping globally because people don't have the attention span now to be able to read a paragraph.
Mate, I can see that because I have my
personal experience.
Yeah. But no, I totally agree. I think the other thing is something that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot to make someone feel good.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Really appreciated that.
Yes.
I think that, again, the genius is in the simplicity. Let's not over-engineer it. Let's just make it simple. There's a book, read it.
Yeah.
Right?